Bonjour tout le monde, je suis François Lodard de la société RS Components, je suis responsable projet et je suis notamment en charge donc de la mise en place de solutions autour de la maintenance connectée et je suis accompagné de notre partenaire Version One, donc ils vont se présenter. Alors la présentation sera faite en anglais, mais le support est en français. Donc surtout, n'hésitez pas à poser des questions si vous avez quelques interrogations sur le sujet. Dear partner, if you can introduce yourself before we start the presentation.
Sure. So my name is Mary Carney and I come from Version 1. We're part of the data and analytics team within Version 1, and we have produced the smart inventory management solution that Roisin will actually give you some detail on here later on today.
Hi guys, I'm Roisin and I'm a data analyst in Version 1 now for a few years. So I'll be taking you through the presentation today.
Hi guys, my name is Brian. I'm the commercial account manager within Version 1 within the sales team, and the day-to-day account manager for RS as well.
Thank you. So we're going to on la présentation, please, dear colleague, if you up to you now to start the presentation.
Okay, thank you very much, Francoise. So my name is Mary, as I just said, and I just want to introduce our smart inventory management solution. So SIM is a solution that will provide you with an insight-driven approach using your own data to your MRO inventory. And I suppose, you know, what we recognize, the landscape for MRO inventory management is changing quite significantly and changing at an increased pace. And our solution can help you get a high-level interactive visualization of your stock holding, as well as then getting into the detail of the individual stock items. And we have seen from our engagements across various industries, for example, in utilities, logistics, or travel and transport, that key issues range from overstock of certain parts, certain spare parts, unplanned downtime then due to lack of the required spare parts, or high levels of obsolescence in elements of your inventory without clear visibility of how these situations can be addressed or eliminated. And our solution can provide that intelligence to allow you to take meaningful action and address these situations based on your data. And I'll just hand you over now quickly to Brian to give you some background on Version 1.
Thanks, Mary. So, Version 1, just a quick snippet of who we are and what do we do. So we are an Irish IT services provider of approximately 1,400 employees with 10 offices and service delivery centres across Ireland, the UK and India. Our core services centre on delivering real business value through IT transformation using software development, data and analytics and application modernization, utilizing the power of cloud primarily. Our core technology partners are Microsoft, AWS and Oracle, and we deliver solutions based on all three technologies and vendors, primarily, as I say, into their cloud platforms. What we will present to you today, SIM, is an example of innovation and innovation utilizing technology. And we are a market leader in innovation, investing 1 million per annum in our innovation labs initiatives, using the power of technology to innovate for our clients across all sectors and all industries. So as I say, SIM certainly is an example of how we utilize technology to innovate, and I'll hand you over to Roisin now, who will bring you through this example.
Thanks very much, guys. So as they said, I'm Roisin and I'm a consultant with Practice, and I'm going to talk you through SIM, which is the Smart Inventory Management Solution. It's an advanced analytics solution for optimized management of maintenance, repair and operations, or we'll call it MRO inventory. While we use MRO stock data for this demo, the same concept can be applied across to other types of stock or resource management. We developed SIM in response to the challenges faced by many manufacturing and production companies. It kind of came out of a conversation. One oil and gas operator was asked, how do you actually manage your maintenance, repair and operations inventory? And he commented back that it would make his granny weep if she knew how bad we were at it. And this theme came up again, and it seemed to be quite common to manufacturing and production companies that we talked to. They were really good at managing inventory related to raw materials, to work in progress, finished goods, but they tended to neglect their MRO stock. And we also saw many examples where there were significant costs to holding these aging assets. On the other side of the coin, we had a supplier of MRO goods, RS Components, who supply, as we know, electronic components, electrical and engineering tools and consumables. With the rise of Amazon and other large online retailers, they started to wonder, where do we fit in the supply chain? How can we add value to our customer base in an innovative way? And they came to us to build a solution for inventory management that their customers would find useful, would save their customers money and help them manage their stock. And then if they wanted to, would allow them to place reorders for spare parts with RS Components. As we are an analytics company, we then set out to build a data-driven approach to the management of MRO inventory. We wanted to reduce the risk of stockouts on important items, which can be crippling to the production environment. To give perspective, an average automotive manufacturer will lose $22,000 per minute of downtime. With such high costs at stake, keeping production machinery operating is critical to a factory's bottom line. At the same time, we wanted to enable users of the solution to easily identify their slow-moving or non-moving stock. In many cases, this can be removed from the warehouse and free up space and generate income either through refunds or reselling the goods. For companies new to data science, our solution, we wanted something that was not too demanding in terms of data requirements or on organizational impact. What we do is we use data that is already recorded, but may be neglected by manufacturing and production companies. We apply analytics to transactional data, and we produce data-driven reorder points, and we also report back on data qualities and anomalies. So in this way, we help companies move along the analytics maturity curve, but without making too many demands on the organization. We originally built the solution using IBM technology, but it's since been proven as well in Microsoft. Today, I'll be showing our Microsoft version, which uses Microsoft Azure to ingest and store the data. It uses open source OR to process and apply statistical analysis to inventory data, and we deploy the results and visualizations back in Power BI. Our main goal was to build a profile of inventory movements such that we can predict with a given confidence level the risk of stock out, given the lead time for reorder for each and every stock item in the MRO inventory. The recommendation model is about using a data-driven statistical model to come up with more optimized reorder points which are adapted to your usage and your transactions. We've seen some clients that sometimes have reorder points set years ago and are not updated and are not kept up to date. Where this differs is that the model seeks to understand how you've been using your stock, where you've been ordering too much, and identifying SKUs that are at risk of stock out, and come up with more accurate reorder points based on actual usage patterns. It takes into account your lead time, so how many days it takes for stock to be replenished, your critical stock items if you have that data recorded, and it gives a data-driven recommendation to either increase, decrease, or maintain stock, as well as how much to increase or decrease by. We also include RFM analysis, which stands for recency, frequency, and monetary. And it's a type of analysis that enables warehouse managers to identify their slow or non-moving stock and also the value tied up in those. Along the way, we carry out quite a bit of data quality analysis, and we identify anomalies and present them alongside our recommendations. So if our smart inventory management system flags a lot of data issues, these should be investigated and corrected before relying on the optimized reorder points. Remember that often with underlying MRO data, it might not have received a lot of attention in the past, and so errors might not have been noticed until now. We find that customers of the SIM solution can benefit in two ways. First, a big win in reducing your non-moving or your potentially obsolete inventory. And secondly, the application of data-driven reorder points means that the risk of stockouts is reduced to the level that the organization is happy to bear, and the organization has an ability within the tool to manage this. We present back the results in an intuitive, easy-to-use dashboard with full filtering and drill-down capability. So we'll take the next few minutes, and I'm going to walk you through the dashboard along with the results and explain how it works. So as you can see, there are 4 tabs in the dashboard. The first gives you a stock overview, so a very high level of what stock you have, what's moving, what's obsolete or potentially obsolete, the value of your stock and transactions on it. If you have stock in different warehouses, you can slice by location as well. The next 2 tabs are for data quality and for spotting any unusual behavior or events in your stock usage that could affect your model output. This gives transparency to the models and allows you to understand what is driving the model recommendations. Our last tab down here is our recommendation model. This applies a statistical model to transactional data to produce data-driven reorder points. Typically, when clients upload their data, this first overview tab is a good place to start for quick wins. Here we see our customer is based in the UK, has about £3 million of inventory, about 2,450 stock units, or close to 28,000 items, and just under 93,000 transactions on them. Over here, we can see any stock items that have not had any transactions on them in either a year or 2 years. This is what we would consider potentially obsolete stock, as there's no movement. If I look at my stock that hasn't had any transactions in over 2 years, I see that I have about £1.2 million tied up in this. This is stock that I could potentially resell and free up that cash and that space in that warehouse, or I could even move it to a different warehouse if it was suited better to maybe a warehouse where there wasn't a lot of movement. Down here, I have our RFM, which is our recency, frequency, and monetary analysis. It's a type of analysis that scores units on a scale of 1 to 5 based on how recent a transaction occurred and how frequently transactions occur for that stock item. Our monetary side is given on this bubble chart on the left. Down here at 0, 0, this is our non-moving stock. At the other end of the scale, at our 5, 5, this is our fast-moving stock. By being able to use this table along with the other filters, you can get a more nuanced view and understand how frequently your stock is moving, what is fast-moving, and what stock you have is considered slow-moving, and you can allow for better stock planning. RFM analysis is a common way of segmenting groups or creating clusters or profiles, in this case, stock, but you can also segment anything else, such as customers in a retail setting. What we'll do now is we'll look at our non-moving stock. Now we know that we have 412 stock units and about £1.2 million tied up in this. Over here, we'll start looking at our monetary values. Here we have a chart that shows the average cost per stock type against total inventory value for that stock type. In this example, we have a stock type BK10M. Here we have a low-cost stock type with high inventory values. In other words, something that maybe doesn't cost a lot individually, but perhaps we have a lot of inventory tied up in it and a lot of value as a result. By combining filters, I can drill down and pick out at a granular level which of my stock units have the highest value and aren't getting used. As you can see, we have 43 units of this stock type, a balance of just over 1,000 and about £227,000 tied up in one stock type. That's a big chunk of my dead stock in one type. By getting this granular view, it helps me focus my attention in on that and decide what actions to take, whether to keep it if it's critical or needed for safety reasons, or release it and move it elsewhere and potentially free up that cash. Now, not all non-moving stock is considered obsolete or can be gotten rid of. While the tool can identify non-moving stock, it's up to the person using the dashboard to decide what action to take. Perhaps certain stock needs to be kept inside for insurance reasons or strategic reasons. Some clients will have a safety stock level recorded in their database. In this case, our client does not have it recorded, so it's showing up as 0. But if it was recorded, the model would make a reorder point recommendation for that stock unit and then add on the safety stock value to make sure you always have a minimum level to meet your SLAs or your safety stock indicator. Here we have our lead time indicator. Our lead time shows how many days it takes between when we order a stock unit and when it comes into our warehouse. This is important. If we do not have a lead time recorded for our stock, our model cannot do reorder point recommendations for these items. If I look over here, I have about 5% of our data that doesn't have a lead time recorded, and this will indicate to the user they need to go back and fix that issue if they want ROP recommendations for these units. The lower our lead time, the more flexibility we have, so we could leave stock drop a little lower before reordering it. Our lead times are critical to our reorder point recommendations. Now, our next two tabs carry out quite a bit of data quality analysis. In this tab, it applies univariate and multivariate outlier detection models to identify issues with the data and present them back to the client for review. That way, if you see a reorder point recommendation that seems unusually high or low for a particular stock unit, and you don't fully trust the output, you can look back here and see whether it's related to poor data quality, or maybe there was unusual patterns in usage. Say a spike in usage could be caused by a storm damaging equipment that might have required a large order or an unusually large order of a particular item. By providing these tabs, it allows the user to understand what is driving the model predictions. We want to move away from a black box model approach to one that is more transparent and gives more control to the user when it comes to deciding whether or not to accept the model's recommendations. We have different charts here that will identify your extreme values across different metrics. We do quality checks on these metrics and report back if anomalies are found. These metrics are quantity issued versus received, issues cost versus reorder cost, extreme values in terms of transaction quantity and transaction cost over time. In this screen, we're going to look at stock performance. Again, this is a data quality check and it feeds into our RRP recommendations. We have the usual high-level figures above, and we also look at a series of 4 different measures to identify unusual behavior in our stock. These 4 measures are total reorders, total issues, total quantity received, and total quantity issued. Using these charts, we can get a sense of how much of our stock is flagging as anomalous. The key driver in this tab and in these charts is an anomaly detection model. This is a machine learning model that will look at every aspect of a stock item instead of one aspect in isolation. And then it will determine if it's considered anomalous. So instead of saying just looking at whether a high quantity was issued, a machine learning model will take all the different pieces of information you hold on that stock together and compare that stock unit in context of other units to determine if it's considered unusual or very different from other stock units. To give an example, a reissue value of 10 might not seem very high and it might not seem very unusual, especially in the context of talking about screws or paper clips or something low value. Our model, however, will take into account the stock unit, check all the data on it, and decide in context, is this unusual? So for example, if you now talk about airplane engines, a reorder issue of 10 might start to look quite unusual. This is the advantage of using a machine learning model over rule-based models. So what we'll do is if we focus on what the model flags as anomalous, we find 25 SKUs with a high anomaly score. Over here, it will give you the reasons why. If we check our bubble chart, it tells us that the main reason that they scored highly relates to existing minimum level. Over here, we can get a more detailed view of the stock. Here we have various stock units of stock type CMAG and Sortec M. Here we have our suppliers and our manufacturers. If we look, our rules-based or our business set minimum level is 7 for this item. However, our current balance is 5. Now you will have noticed we have a lead time of 410 days. So that's over a year to get the stock unit into our warehouse. In this case, our minimum level is potentially too low for that particular stock unit. This will feed into our ROP model, which we will look at next, and it will likely suggest we raise our minimum reorder points so we don't face stock out on this item. On this tab, this is where we are going to show you our optimized reorder points. The model is calibrated in the background, fitting statistical distributions to transactional data, which is binned by lead time, and to generate confidence levels around stock movements of different levels over future time periods. Our warehouse manager can set his or her desired confidence level or service level. To give you an example, if you wanted to be 99% confident that you will not risk any stock outs, I'm going to click and set it to 99. If I was to take all the model's recommendations, and this is at the most conservative level, underneath you can see the financial impact of accepting all those recommendations at this service level would involve an investment of about 600,000. Alternatively, you can be more lax, especially if you have stock items that are not critical, and you can set the level lower at 80%. Maybe you might want to go back to a supplier and renegotiate a better deal in the meantime. Our model output will give a recommendation to either increase, decrease, or maintain existing minimum stock levels, as well as give a new reorder point for each stock unit. Now at this level, most of the recommendations are to increase. But even at this very conservative, high service level, I'm still able to decrease my reorder points on some units. So let's have a look. Even maintaining a very high service level where I am 99% confident I will not have any stock out on any item, our model has still found certain items that I can reduce my reorder point level and I can make savings, and it will tell me up here I can save just under £100,000. Over here in our table, we get a more granular view of the model outputs, such as the recommendations, the amount to increase or decrease by, the financial impact of that decision, as well as various reporting metrics around stock movement and data quality. By having this granular view, you can pick and choose which units you want to take the model's recommendation for or not. This gives you more control. You can also, of course, automate this once you're happy with the model and how it's working. As with any chart and anything you see here, especially the table, the customer or user can, of course, adapt this to display whatever is most relevant to the business. Over here, we have our top 10 bar chart. Now, what most people do is they will use the combination of service levels and these top 10 charts. These shows the top items to increase or decrease in terms of the financial impact. A typical user might set the confidence level at 80 and then take the model's recommendation from the top 10 items to increase. They might then switch to 99 and then decrease. That way, they are not making massive investments, but they are also not risking their most critical items and still have a very good service level. It allows them to get a good balance between finances and stock control. So to give an example of how that works, I'm going to set my service level at 99, and then I'm going to see what can I reduce my reorder points on. It will now tell me that I can reduce these particular stock numbers. And this is obviously the highest one that I can make the most savings. If I click into this, I can see this one stock unit, BK1440. I can see that I can make a savings of £16,000 at this level. Underneath, we have a very nice line chart here. What it does is it shows me my average balance for that stock unit over time, which is my blue line. This is your actual usage pattern. We also have our average of existing minimum level. This would have been set by the business. This is our yellow line. Our green line here is the model's recommended minimum level. This is our new reorder point recommendation for this unit. Note that the green line, or the model's recommendation, more closely mirrors the actual usage pattern for that stock unit. This is where a statistical, data-driven model differs from business rules. It can more closely fit and match actual usage or transaction patterns. In this way, it will adapt to your data and your company. Here we can see our minimum level for the stock unit, which was set by the business, was higher than the actual balance which was needed. This means that we had more stock than was required. This is why our model is therefore recommending to reduce the reorder point on this item. So, just to give you a recap on what we've seen so far. Our first part of inventory insights is looking at your fast and your slow moving or non-moving stock. You can drill down into it and see what stock you have, what types of stock you have, how much value is tied up in each of them, where it's located, how much is there. It also allows you to prioritize and see is there any stock that is not moving that you can sell off or that needs your attention. Our middle tabs are looking at our inventory transactions and stock performance. Here we can see any unusual stock transactions and see if there's any data quality warnings we need to take into account. Anyone that works with data will often know that any issues in data generally affects the outcomes and is quite important to fix. Our last tab is using a statistical algorithm that says if you want to maintain a particular service level or confidence level, then these are the stock units you need to increase or decrease, or you can keep where they are. It'll also tell you the value or the financial impact of taking these decisions and give you an amount to increase or decrease by. Now that can be automated in the full product, where once the model is running well, it will automatically go and reorder these items for you when it reaches the low point. Or most customers would like to have control, and you can decide and what recommendations you want to keep or not keep. You can also drill down to a very granular level to help you make those decisions. So that's the end of the demonstration of the product, and I'm going to hand you back over to my colleagues, Mary and Brian. And if you have any questions, please feel free.
So Brian, I think.
Yeah, I suppose have any questions come through on that, Francois, in the on chat, or any questions for Roisin?
No, for the moment, no question for the moment.
Okay, very good.
Si vous avez des questions, n'hésitez surtout pas. Voilà, c'est une solution vraiment autour de l'analyse de la rotation des pièces détachées dédiée à la maintenance. Donc c'est vraiment une prestation. C'est pas un logiciel à long terme, c'est vraiment une prestation pendant 2, 3 mois en fonction du volume de pièces détachées. But please, Brian, if you want to continue your presentation.
Sure. Okay. So look, I guess from me, it's just I suppose to recap very much on what Roisin has said there, and from a value perspective, when version 1, or when I go to speak to any client, regardless of what industry, and when I go to talk about information and data, I start by saying that, you know, the information and the data that we utilize to deliver value is very much your data as the customer. It's your information. What we bring to it, and what SIM brings to our customers, is the ability to harness that data, harness that information, and deliver it back in a structured manner, which allows, again, you, the customer, you, the client, to make a decision which can lead to cost reduction, to money savings, obviously the management of stock very much, and inventory very much. So I suppose in terms of what we bring to our clients in this regard is very much the expertise, the analytical expertise, the IT, the utilization of IT, and the utilization of the technology that's available to us to harness your information, harness your data, and begin to deliver back value to you, the customer, and to your organization based on that. And
Brian, excuse me to interrupt.
Yes.
We have a question. We have a question in the chat. How is the model handling the supplier lead time variation and reliability?
Sorry, can you say that again, Francois?
Yep. So it's, how is the model handling the supplier lead time variation and reliability?
You're on silent there, Roisin.
Yeah. It's the catchphrase of the.
That's got to be the catchphrase of the COVID era.
Yeah, my life is plagued by that. Yeah, so for every stock item that you have, if there's a lead time recorded, it'll give a reorder point recommendation based off of that. So the model will read it in and give a recommendation based off your lead time. In terms of supplier variation, if you have it recorded for each supplier, it'll give a recommendation just based on the lead time. It doesn't matter who the supplier is. So if you have one supplier with 10 days lead time versus 100 days lead time, the recommendation will be different because it's based off the lead time. I hope that that helps. In terms of reliability, I mean, if the assumption of the model is that the lead time is accurate. If it's not, then you need to go back and fix your data to make it accurate. I hope that helps.
Does it respond to your question, Angel?
Barbara, yeah.
If not,
Also.
give me a shout and I'm happy to elaborate.
Yes, thanks, she says.
Good.
Okay.
She's happy with that answer.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you very much, Roisin and Brian, for that. And I suppose, you know, from the output that you've seen from Roisin there, and I mean, I suppose it says it in this slide here, really, that accurate understanding, decision-making support is the objective, really, of the smart inventory management. And, you know, that's what this solution offers. Just to summarize, I mean, you can see that by using your historic transactions, like from your internal systems, and they are used together, let's say, with the balance information and your reorder point and then your lead time for the goods that you're monitoring. And it then allows us to produce like very easily understood dashboards that Roisin has just brought you through. So this solution really can deliver both from an ongoing process, as well as that one-time snapshot, let's say, of an initial load up when you examine your obsolete stock. And it also helps to get you an understanding of the data, the actual quality of the data that's been used. And I suppose the big benefit here is that it is based on your internal transaction information. So we're not looking for an awful lot of additional information other than information that you already have in your system. I think one point that we're anxious to make sure that people understand as well is that although this solution is obviously here and we're working with RS components, it is very possible for you to actually speak directly, to send data directly to version 1. In other words, your data does not have to go through RS components. And this is something that both ourselves and RS were anxious to make sure that people understood. We can understand some companies' reluctance perhaps in letting all of their information through to one supplier because they may have numbers of suppliers, but it's absolutely accurate to say that you can send your data directly to version 1. Obviously after dealing through RS components and dealing with Francois and his colleagues. And that's pretty much the summary, I think, from our perspective here. If there are any other questions or if Francois has any other comments to add to this, I think that would be very useful. I think Francois has just dropped off. He's dropping in and out. I think
he's back again.
He's back, thancfully, yes.
Yeah, no, so thank you very much, Mary. Donc, si vraiment cette solution est, je dirais, la dernière solution que nous proposons à nos clients qui tourne vraiment autour de la maintenance connectée, et qui permet vraiment de faire cette analyse des rotations de pièces détachées, de détecter les obsolescences, de détecter le surstockage de pièces détachées. C'est vraiment dans cette logique-là, et surtout que ça rentre vraiment dans une thématique qui est importante pour beaucoup de sociétés maintenant, qui est le TCO. Donc le Total Cost of Ownership, et donc le Smart Inventory Management permet de définir vraiment un type de réduction de coûts qui est vraiment non négligeable. Donc, vraiment, si vous souhaitez avoir plus d'informations, vous souhaitez faire un pilote, n'hésitez pas à nous contacter. Malgré tout, est-ce que vous avez des questions en particulier, ou est-ce que tout cela vous paraît clair? Sachant que la vidéo de cette présentation vous sera envoyée après ce webinaire. Donc de toute manière, si vous avez d'autres questions après, bien sûr, on tâchera d'y répondre. Bien, je vous remercie. Thank you very much, Mary, Brian, and Rosine, for this presentation. Great support. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Very clear.
Okay. Okay. I will close this down now. I'll end this.
Merci beaucoup. Passez un bon week-end. Have a good weekend.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
You
too.
And
À
you
très
also,
bientôt.
François. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thanks
Bye,
very much,
everyone.
guys.
Merci
Bye.
beaucoup. Bonne soirée. Merci. Au
Bonsoir.
revoir.
Bye bye.
Bye-bye.
Au revoir.